Okay, I had a quick question about what is a JAMMA conversion harness. Again, it's a very simple little device, and so I'll just give you a quick look. See, here is a standard JAMMA harness. You know, each of the wires do what they do. You know, you've got like your ground, your power, video wires, your control wires. And since this is a JAMMA harness, it will work with any JAMMA board. Like, I've got Proger here, and Proger has an edge here, which the edge connector connects to, and then it's simply just stick it on, and the game will work 100% because it's JAMMA, and the wires here match the game. However, before JAMMA was created, and even after JAMMA was created, some companies, for their different reasons, chose not to use the JAMMA pinout spec. So, for those games, you need a JAMMA conversion harness. And these are just two examples that I've got here. A JAMMA conversion harness is used to just basically alter your wiring. Because, you know, you don't want to have to build a new harness every time you change games. So, you just get one of these. And it's incredibly simple. This one is for Nakamura, aka Ghosts and Goblins, or which is a Capcom Classic board. Meaning, like, if you just look, you'll notice there's a lot more wires coming off the JAMMA harness than the Capcom harness. And that's simply because Nakamura does not use those extra pins. But not only does it not use them, but the pins it does use are in a different spot. Like for example, let's say, you know, you've got your Ghosts and Goblins Nakamura board, and the pin that outputs player 1 button 1 goes to, I don't know, I forget which pin to be honest, but let's say, for example, this pin. Well, on JAMMA, it's actually this pin. So if you were to plug this directly in to the Ghosts and Goblins board, it wouldn't work because the pins would be wrong. Like, maybe you'd plug, for example, player 1 button 2 to where Capcom expects player 1 button 1 to be. So, you know, you just switch the buttons over. And you really want to be careful because, you know, you might put like a power wire to where you're supposed to have, like, you know, a control wire, which you don't want. Then you'd have, you know, your power line running into like one of your control lines, and you could fry your board doing that. So instead of rewiring this, we just use a simple conversion harness, which, you know, it's just an edge connector wired up to a fingerboard, and the fingerboard just plugs into the JAMMA edge connector, and then you're good to go because the wires are now connected to the Capcom board where they're supposed to be, but then when they get here, they're reordered, rearranged, so that they're at the proper location, so that the JAMMA harness can read them normally. Like my other example here is a Sega System 16 and Sega System 24. Games like, you know, Cotton, Shinobi, they're not JAMMA. They're a System 16, they need one of these. And like, if you compare the two, I mean, they're made by the same company with the same parts, so they look similar, but if you compare the two, you'll notice that, see, on the System 16, there's wires here, but on the Capcom, there's no wire here. That's because the Sega System 16 boards use this pin. Again, going from memory, I don't quite remember, but they need this pin. So this has to be wired up to the JAMMA. So there's a wire here that goes here. The Capcom, it doesn't need this pin. It doesn't use this one, so there's no wire here. So as you can see, that's pretty much all a conversion harness is. It's just a quick and easy way to rewire. Because, I mean, if a super gun, you know, it looks kind of simple because they've just got that. But, like, it's a little dark in here, I'm afraid, but if you use an actual cab, like I also do, you know, on a cab, wires go everywhere. Wires go from the board, to the speakers, to the monitor, to the power that's way at the bottom, to the control panel. Wires going everywhere. So if you were going to have to rewire your cab every time you wanted to switch games, it would be a pain in the ass. So the easy way is you just get a conversion harness, and then whenever you want to play a game that uses a non-standard pinout, something that's a little weird or different, just plug this end onto the proper board and plug this straight into your normal harness, and you're good to go. So yeah, that's it really. Just a very simple way to rewire your cab, your super gun, whatever. If you got any more questions, let me know.